Welcome back. This is going to be part 3 of the new layout and designing kitchens in Promob Plus Professional. I have got a new mouse pointer system, so hopefully it's going to make it a bit easier where it will show you left and right clicks, and also if I hit my control or shift key at the same time it should highlight that as well to make it a little bit easier for you to follow along. What we're going to do today, we're going to do a few changes. The first one we're going to do is we're going to show if you've been to a client, for instance, and the client then decides they want to change something, maybe a drastic change. For instance, maybe they want to change the island, they want to make this a waterfall feature. They also want to possibly take this back and then have a raised sitting area piece across there, and maybe they want to put their extractor over here and maybe a stovetop or something over here. So it's a bit of major changes. Now the problem that we have is when customers do that, we tend to go back into the design, make the changes, go back, and 9 times out of 10 the customer will go back and say, well actually no, I preferred it the other way with just one minor change, and you've got to start all over again, moving things around, changing things around. So what we can do in Promob, we can almost duplicate the design under the client's name, and we can move back and forward between them depending on what the client needs and what the client wants, to save us having to redraw everything and change everything all the time. So you could use this for doing change of colors, you could do it for changing several cabinets, moving a fridge, whatever it is. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back down here to the bottom left hand corner where it says connect, and I'm going to click on that, and we're going to go back to our system over here, and what we're going to do is we're going to go across to where this little arrow is. It says create new option, and I'm going to click on that, and it's going to come up and it's going to give us the name, which is the new training 1, but now it's going to ask us for a new name, and I've got a couple up here already in your design details. After the information you can actually click here and you can see which design you've got. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say new island, so we know exactly what it is. Leave it like that, and we're just going to say OK. And you'll see a crossover here, it's already brought it in. Now the reason it hasn't allowed me to go straight into it is because I've actually got the other one still open. So it doesn't allow you, even though I've made a duplicate, I can't just click on this one and say open. If I say no changes, now you'll see it swapped over, and now it's going to be using the default again, which is up here, which is not what we want. So you'll see it's going to go and open the default. It's not going to open the new island or the name of the product new island, because it's going to be the same layout. So what we need to do is, if you look over here, it's got new island up here, so it means it has made the change for us. So we're now working on a new island. Okay, so now what I can do is, by moving my mouse around, we can have a look and we can start making some changes to this particular drawing, knowing that we've got this already backed up that we can swing back into if we need to, if the client changes their mind again. So let's start. Let's do something a little bit easy, and what we're going to do is we're going to change the island, going to maybe make a waterfall side, and then the other thing that we could maybe have a look at is start adding handles and things like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click onto the worktop, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to come to edit. I'm going to make this bigger so we can see it easily, and this is obviously the area that we're going to be working on. So to keep it nice and straightforward, we're going to just pull this over here back like that. I'm going to now, this was already at 300, so I can come up here, click on this one, and I can say 300 because we know what we were working on, and I can come across here and I can just click that back. So now I know that my worktop is perfect. Now what I want to do over here, let's just zoom in a little bit. I'm going to actually click on this, and I'm going to take this past. Let's just click, I'm going to take that. Click on here. Okay. Oh, sorry. Helps if I actually have the right tool. There we are. And I'm going to actually line that up with that edge. So OK, and it's going to take us back in like that. Okay. Now what I want to do with this panel is I'm going to obviously extend it. So if we come to our tools, I'm going to pin the tools so we can see it. At the moment we've got 600. This top is 600, so that's perfect. And then what I'm going to do is I want to make this top the same as that, but I want to make it a bit thicker. So at the moment it's 16, so let's take that and let's make that 20. Okay. If I click on this and I pull it out and I put it back in, you'll see that it won't go because of the edge there, which is fine. We're going to move that back in anyway. So we're going to come to the move tool and I'm going to go 20 mil, and I can just move that back in so it fits like that. Okay, so we've got everything sitting how we want it with the top. Okay, so what I can now do is I can take this top and we can make it a little bit bigger. So if I go back to properties, I'm going to add 20 mil to this. So I can just say plus 20. And you'll see that it has moved. And I can click on this, I'm just going to pull it in so it lines up nicely like that. Okay. And I'm going to pull this, I'm going to click on this, I'm just going to move it out a couple of mil. I want to see, if I move that 10 mil and I'm going to move it to the minus, I want that side to be flush like that. So now I can see exactly where my top is going to be, and I can see this top will need to be extended, but we'll do that afterwards. So what I want to do now is I want to make that material. So if I come back to models and I go to select, because I've got this one selected, I can see that I'm using the 203 classic grey from Caesar Stone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this. We're going to change this material. So I can go down, and you'll see at the moment it doesn't show Caesar Stone because at the moment it thinks it's a side panel. So it's thinking that it's wood. So what we'll have to do is we have to come down here and we can change this setting to tops. And if we go back in, let's have a look and see if it'll allow it. And if it doesn't allow it, because it still assumes that it's wood because that's what it is, we can come along here and we can go to edit. We're going to copy that material and I'm going to paste it and say select all. If I press M on my keyboard, it brings me back to my move tool, so I don't have to always keep going back and looking for it. And now I'm going to right click, I'm going to go to edit. We're going to zoom in, and we just want to have a quick look, and you'll see that there is a slight edge there. So if I click on this, I can literally just pull this up so it snaps like that. And by looking at that, if I click on, I'm going to actually pull this back, I just want to have a look here. If I click on this top here, you see it won't allow me to move it. So what we're going to do, we're going to pull that back because I want to make this the same size exactly. So we're going to say okay, we're going to check now to see if we've actually got it exactly the same size. And if you look, we haven't. Okay, so we're going to need to make this bigger. So if you remember, I made it 620 and it's still showing only 600. So I'm going to say plus 20. And now it's bang on to where I wanted it. So it's going to line up perfectly. So let's go here, and I always want the top to go over, so it's going to look much smarter by making the top go over. So I'm just going to come back here, I'm going to click, and I'm going to just pull that to match up. Like that. When we go back out, we're going to see it's going to look like a feature like that. Now again, we can change, because if this top, I think this top is a 30 mil, we could make this 30 mil, but then we know we're going to need 10 mil more on the top. So I'm going to change this one, because I actually want that also to be 20 mil. I want it to match like that, and you'll see that it's automatically gone back, because what happens with Promob, whenever you change the thickness of a material of a top, it goes back to the original setting. So don't ever get sort of worried if you go and do it and it moves. It's just basically working on what the original auto was that we put in. If you use an auto, it will always pull back to your auto size. If you've manually been in and done it, it will stay at the size that you've manually created it. There we go. So I'm happy with that. That looks okay. Okay, so what we're going to do here now is on this I'm going to put in a extractor, and I'm going to put in a hob over here. So we don't need these glass shelves anymore, so I'm going to click, and if I hold my shift key and click again, control key and click again, it's going to select both of them, and I can right click and I can say remove, and it's going to remove both at the same time. So what we're going to do here is we know already, if I click on that, we know that we've got a width of 775, so that's a nice size for us to put in a extractor, and we're going to put in a hob down here. Now I've got a couple of options. I can leave that cupboard there and try and fit in like a box one, or we could take that out and put a nice flue type hood in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this. So we're going to take that one out, and we're going to put in a extractor. So if I go over to catalog, and I'm going to lock it for us to see. Okay, I'm going to make this a bit narrower because I tend to find they are a little bit wide, and I can do that on both sides by just hovering over the edge and then pulling it in with my mouse button pressed, and you'll see that it allows me to have a bit more space to work with. So what I'm going to do is I want to go to here, and I'm going to go down till it says decor. Once I'm in decor, I know that in kitchens I'm going to have some hoods, some extractors. So I'm going to go in and I can go down to home appliances, and then if I click down on the home appliance, let's just double check home appliance, I can then come here and I can have a look, and there's some hoods over there. So why did it not go to hoods? Because I didn't click on it. There we go. Okay, so I've got some different hoods that I could use here, and I'm going to use a different one. I'm going to use this like shaped hood. I'm going to see if we can fit that nicely in there. So I'm going to bring that in, and I know it's going to be too big. I know it's going to be big. This is probably a 900 unit. So by having a look at this, I know straight away that's going to be too big. So let's go here. I'm going to click on this wall. Let's see if we can bring another nice looking one. Maybe that's something like this. Let's bring this one in. I'm going to attach it to the wall, and I can see it's too big, but that's fine. I'm going to click on it, and across here, yes, I can see it's 900. I want to make this 750. Is it still going to be too tight? Yes. So let's make this 700. Okay, and we can come along here, and I can just centralize it into that space, and let's have a look at how it looks. Yeah, we can work with that. Okay, so you'll see that I've already got my hood in now, and now I need to put in a oven unit. So let's go here to a hob. We've got cookertops, and I want to put in a, let's have a look here. What have we got here? Just want to see if they've got anything, maybe something like that. That'll look quite nice, I think, on there. Bring it in, place it on there, and we can drop it down. And you'll see, even if it brings it in skew like that, it's fine. You can hold your shift key down and your left mouse button, and we can rotate it that way. Okay, or we could have gone to the move tool and rotated it that way, but it's either or. But it's very quick if you hold your shift and your left mouse button down. I've got a 30mm edge there. I don't want 30mm, I only want 20mm, so we can move this 10mm to this side here. So let's have a look here. I've got 40, I've got 50, let's do another 10. There we are. I want it like that. Now I could make this bigger if I wanted to, because it's already centered. So let's just say, at the moment, say width of that. Let's change this to 650. Okay, and then I just want to move this slightly so that it's lined up with that central point there. I'm actually quite happy with that. Okay, so that one is in, And now what we can do is we're going to have a little bit of a play around with this. The customer has now asked for us to make like a raised area over here. So there's two ways of doing it. We could do it with little bowls or something there, or we could put a granite base or a block in and then put a top on top of that. So let's do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to have it so it overhangs slightly here, and maybe we'll have a little bit of an overhang here. Maybe we'll round both corners off or something like that. So what we're going to do, we're going to go up here to geometry. We're going to take this tool here. It's going to ask us, I don't hide this mainly because I need to show people. You can hide it once you get used to how it works. But to give you an idea, what happens is it's telling us when we right click on an area, a wall, a floor, a worktop, whatever, or a cabinet, that's what it's going to attach what we're drawing to. So very important. If you don't right click and it doesn't turn yellow, it'll automatically attach to the floor. So remember, right click on the area that you want to attach what you're going to be creating. So what we're going to do is we're going to minimize that. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to right click, and you'll see it's turned yellow. That's fine because that's where I want it to end up being. So when I click, I can give it whatever height I want. So at the moment it's just a box, which is fine. That's what I'm actually going to do, but I'm going to make it a reasonable size box because I want to put a nice sort of top onto there. But I'm going to create my own top. I'm not going to just drop a top in. Okay, so what we can do is when we're on this tool here, what I can now do is if I press M on my keyboard, it brings me back to my move tool. Very quick. Okay, once I select that, I can now play around with it. So at the moment, the height, let's change that height to 80. Okay, it's quite thick, it's 141. We don't really need it taking up all that space, so we're going to make that 80. Okay, and now what I want to do is I've got 116 there across here, so I'm going to move it. Okay, so where it said 116, let's make that 116. Okay, and if I turn here, you're going to be able to see it's 116, and I've got a plus button, so I can just press the plus, and it's going to move it level with that, which is fine. I've got 88 that side, and I've got 118 on that side. I can right click on it. Let's see if this will work. I'm going to centralize it. 103, probably 103, 104, 103. Okay, so that's centralized. I'm going to leave it like that so that the two ends are a little bit short. And then what we're going to do is to make this a feature, I'm going to make this the same color as that. Okay, so I'm going to go to select tool, and I'm going to say all. So now I've got a wood panel. If you look, the direction of that wood panel is not how I want it. Press M on your keyboard, so we go back to the move tool. So whatever you press on now is not going to go into a color. I'm going to come across here where we've got the tools. I'm going to go to material, and where I've got that color, over here where it says rotate, I'm going to just rotate that. Okay, so I can type it in, or I can just try and get it as close as I can, 90, and it will rotate that material. Okay, so I'm happy with that now. Now what I want to do is I want to now build another worktop on top of this. So remember what I said about pressing the yellow button when you're going to do some geometry. So we're going to come back up here. I'm going to click on here. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to right click, okay, onto that, and you'll see it'll turn yellow. That's what I'm going to attach my top to. So I'm going to go from there. I'm just going to put it across for now. And once it's on, click, go up, doesn't matter what size it is. And now that I'm at this point, press M on your keyboard and you've got your move tool back. Now this is going to become like a shelf external 300mm top for us to put some high chairs or bar chairs or something on. So what we're going to do is, with it collected, we're going to come back down here, and we can see the height is 365. We want to make that 30mm. Okay, now we can start playing around with it. So what I could do is I can right click, we can go back in, and now if I make this nice and big for us, you can see what I'm working with. It's already here. Okay, so what we can now do is we can come along, we can use the offset tool. I'm going to make this 250 to my offset, and I'm going to pull this one to 250. Okay. Now what I want to do here is I'm still going to pull this to marry up with the top over here. So at the moment I'm going to go M on my keyboard, and it doesn't change because I've still got this selected. So up here I'm going to click on my move tool, and I'm going to pull this to marry up to there. Okay, and I'm going to do the same at this end, and I'll explain in a minute what I'm going to do. It's just to show you some of the little tricks. So what I'm going to do now is, now that I've got the area that I want to actually just round this particular corner off. So I've got a couple of options up here. I can chamfer it, or I can fillet it. So let's say I want to fillet, and I want to fillet this corner. I just need to click on the little square, and it automatically fillets it nicely for me. And I'm happy with that. I'm going to say OK. And what it's done now is it's created this really nice little overhang that we've got. Okay. Now, maybe what you want to do is, instead of having this flush, is maybe pull this out a little bit so you can keep little jars and things underneath here. So from this side, you can't really see them. So again, we could click on this. We can right click. We can say edit. And what we can do now is we can go back to, let's make this big again so you can see it. We can go back to our chamfer tool, or offset over here. And over here, I'm going to just make that, I should make it 50 or 100. Let's make it 50. We don't want it too far. Whoops, not 150. I want that 50 mil. Okay. So at 50 mil, I'm just going to pull that over like that, and I'm going to say OK. Now you can see, if we go in over here, we've got a nice little edge. Okay. And now I want to make this the same as that. So it's easy enough. What I can do is, when I click on here, first of all, down here, I wanted to just change this area to a kitchen top. So it understands that it's a kitchen top over here. And I'm going to come across and I'm going to paint this to the same color, all, press my M on my keyboard, and I'm back to my move tool. And you'll see now that if I click away, I've now got a little bar area that I've created. Just something a little bit different. Okay. Now let's say, for instance, we have a client that loves these new slats, and they want to put slats, keep this wood backing, but they want to put a darker brown or like a cherry colored wood or something like that in slat form across this, and maybe down that side. So how do we do that? Well, what we can do exactly the same thing as we did with the top up here. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back over here. Remember what I said about right selecting? So I can click, that panel is now yellow. I can now draw from that corner down to the floor. Right click, press M on my keyboard, and I'm back to my move tool. Okay. If I select this now on this side, I know that that needs to be 870. Say yes. Okay. And the height at the moment it's telling me it's 150 out. We're not going to work on 150. We're going to work on 20 mil. Okay. The size, the depth, this way, I want that to be 40 mil. Okay. So what has happened now is I've created a panel. Okay, and if I look at that, I just want to see it's at 870, and you'll see what's happening now is, because this top is flush, I might want to make this top come out a little bit over the top of this, and this is 20 mil. Okay, So what I can do is I can click on this. Again, we can edit it. And again, this is just basically doing all your editing tools. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to come back up here and I'm going to make this 20 mil. I'm going to come over here where it's green, click at 20 mil, come back, and it should cover the top of where that panel is. So it's going to look really nice when we bring it in. Okay, now we've got to change the color of that. So I don't want to match the top, and I don't want to match this. I want that to have a little bit of a gap so you see that sort of color coming through. So we're going to change the color of this. So we're going to go to, there's a couple of options you've got. If you go here, and you'll see if I go to models, even under selection it's not going to pick anything up because it's not actually a panel as such. So what we're going to do is we manually going to change the color. So we're going to come over here to materials, we're going to come down and we're going to go to, let's go to a wood, and I want to make that, let's use this over here, and I'm literally just going to drag that and put it onto that panel and say all. Now the reason I'm doing that now is when I do the next step, which is going to be array those panels, if I'd left it white, they would have all been white and then I would have had to manually go in and click on each one. But because I've changed the color now, whatever I array will be that color. Bear that in mind, it saves a lot of time by doing it this way. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come out. I'm going to just do this so I can actually physically see the area that I'm going to be working on, because I'm going to array these across here like buttons, and I'm going to do it automatically. So the only thing I am going to do is I'm going to click on this one and I'm going to say copy, and I'm just going to move this one to say over here, and I'm going to say paste. Now you'll see, because I've copied it, it's sort of copied it to the side. It's fine, it's not a big problem. We can come up here and under the rotation tool, depending on which way you want to go, you can rotate them back up and forward in whichever direction that you want them to be. And in fact, we're going to do it like that. And you'll see now, if I come back to the properties of this over here, if I say 0, it's going to go down. If I say 870, watch what happens. It's going to sit over here. And I'm happy with that, because that I'm going to use down that side, just to make it a bit easier. So for now, I'm going to click on this one. I'm going to come to the top here on the right hand side where it says array. And over here, if I put 2 in, just check what's happening. It's going up because we've created this. Okay, so we're not going to use that one. We're going to come along, and where we've got up, if I click, start looking to see where they're going. And again, you can actually physically see if they're going to be in the right place, and that's also not going to be right. So what we're going to do is click on this one, I need to click here, and now it automatically is going to show me where those are going to be. So if I start doing it like this, you'll see it'll start building me panels. Now the problem is I want a gap between these. So what I'm going to do is where these two little items are here, I'm going to click on this one, and I'm going to say we're going to need a 20 mil gap. And you'll see it will start spacing them automatically for me. 1, 2, 3, and there's my gap. Okay, gap, gap, gap. Now what I can do with that, if I go back and I start increasing it, okay, and I pull out, okay, so I can see that. What I want to do is where I've got this and I start increasing, just by using my scroller, I can start calculating how many I'm going to need. Okay, so if I click in here, keep going, and you'll see when by the time I get towards the end, that one is going to be too many. So I'm just going to go back 1 to 40. I'm going to come down here and say group item, and I'm going to say insert. And it's going to have built a slat wall for me. As easy as that. Okay. And what I'm going to do here now is with this particular panel, and let's hide this wall, right click on it and lower so that I've got room to work with. I'm going to now take this panel and I'm going to butt it up over here, and you'll see that I'm 20mm out. So I'm just going to move that back 20mm. That marries, that's fine. And what I want to do with this one is I want to actually move it that way a little bit. So we're going to go 20mm, and I've got my corner in like that. Okay. And now I'm going to go to array. And with this one, if I go back to here, you'll see it's going the opposite direction. Click, and you'll see now it's starting to do it. Now again, I want a 20mm gap, and I want it from the edge. Okay, and by clicking here, I can say that's how many I want, group it, insert, and I've got my panels. Okay, so we've made a few changes already to how this particular unit is going to be. Yes, I could come and put another panel in here. So what I could do is that one that I copied, I could say paste. Again, click on it. We can move that by rotation, and we can see where that went because it's probably gone underneath. So if we go back, we can see where we are. And actually I want to pull that out over here somewhere so it's easier to see. And I'm going to make that 870. And I want to move that while it's still connected so it's easier for me to see. I can just pull it out. Okay, so what I'm going to do now with this is I want to move it. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to pull it over here. I'm going to go 600. And I can now see where I want to fit it. So I'm going to go 20. I'm just wondering if I should rotate it maybe. Let's rotate it round so it's sitting more like about where I want it. I can rotate it another little bit. So I've got it squared off. Like that. And now that I've rotated it, I can now move it back again. Move up 10. So look, I want to move it that way, just to cover that corner. That looks much better. Okay. There we go. Yeah, we'll work with that one. Okay, so now we've done that. Let's have a look at possibly putting in some handles. We haven't put any handles in yet. Let's do the handles. I'm going to try and keep this video down a little bit. I know the last one was very long. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to put in some handles, show you how to do that. So we can come up here to where it says models. We're going to come down towards the bottom, over here where it says knobs. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to say show all. And if I go under knobs, you're going to see here there's a range of different sort of knob handles. I've got bar handles. So there's a range of different bar handles. We've got some profiles. No handle obviously means we're not going to put any on. And then we've got partner handles. So under partner handles there is a lot. Under Zen there is so many different handles. Let's make this a bit bigger, you'll be able to see. So under Zen there's thousands of different handles that we've got. All sorts of different types of handles. And it keeps going. I click through, you can see some fusion, all sorts of different types of handles. If I go to the next one, these are all different types of knob handles with different sizes. 26, 416 for instance, it gives you some different ones. Then this one, again, it's got lots of different types of handles. And then this one has also got different styles of handles. Got some classics. We've got some different pull handles. See, there's lots of different types of styles and handles that we can do. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go back to bar handle. I'm going to use number 18. I'm going to say apply, say OK, and you'll see that my handles have all been fitted. Okay, all my handles are there. Now what I wanted to show is if we go to a cupboard, see even this one, which is a spice rack, if I open that one, I'm using it more as like a drawer system. The one next to it is also a drawer system because it's a pull-out bin. But you'll see that it assumes, because it's a bigger door, that it's going to have a standard size handle. Now, what we want to do is we want to move that handle. How do we change it? Well, in Promob it's actually very simple. You come up to where it says positioning, and you'll see we get this diagram where we can actually tell it which direction or where we want the handle to be. So if I want it lower down on this side, I can click down here. Depending on where I click, will determine where I want the handle to be. I can move the handle in all these different positions. So on this one, I actually want the handle to match up with that handle. And all I do is I've just clicked on there and the handle is now lined up. It's done. I don't have to do anything else other than that. Maybe before we go, we'll put a sink and maybe a prep bowl in. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put a sink in this area over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to models. I'm going to stay in decor. I'm going to stay in kitchen. Over here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and I'm going to say sink and countertops like that, and I just want to go sinks. Now over here I'm going to put in like a little double sink over here, but I don't need it to be too big, so we're going to use this one over here. I'm going to take it and I'm going to drag it and drop it onto the worktop. And at the moment it's obviously in the wrong direction. So I can just come up here to move, rotation, and you can rotate it depending on which button you press will determine which way around you want to rotate it. Okay. Once it's rotated, you can click on it and just move it across to where you want it. Okay, and I want a much smaller little cupboard here, sink here. So I'm going to come down here, instead of 800, I want this to be 600, for instance. It's going to move it down to a 600. Okay, I've got my 600 in, and I now want to put a small tap. So I'm going to come over here, and where I've got sinks, if I come over here, I can say taps and faucets. And I'm going to just put in a tap. And again, I'm going to drag it in, and you'll see it's going to pop it onto the surface for me. And I want to actually rotate this, so I can hold my shift button down and my mouse, and I can rotate it. Once I'm happy with roughly where it is, I can pull it into position. And now normally what I do is I go to the move tool, and now I can just move it to exactly where I want it. Sometimes what you do need to do is just come a bit lower. Depending on what the height of your sink and your worktop is, just make sure that it's actually sitting where you want it to be. So if I come here now, pull it down, I can see that it's correct. Okay, so that's my sink in. Let's come across to this side, and let's put a little prep bowl. And I'm going to put it on this far side, and I just want a smaller prep bowl to fit in this area over here. So again, I'm going to go to here, I'm just going to go to sinks, and let's see if we've got a sink that we could use. I'm going to use this little round sink here, this prep bowl. I'm going to bring it in and I'm going to place it there. Okay, I'm going to click on it. Already it's, I want it a bit smaller, so I'm going to make that a 300 by 300 prep bowl. I'm going to move it to roughly where I want it with the cutout. With it being a prep bowl, I just want to rotate that a little bit. So again, I can go to the move tool, rotation, and you can see by clicking on here which direction they're going to go. So we're going to rotate it. I just want to maybe rotate it like that so that little tap end is there. And I'm going to, again, I need to put in a tab. I just want to put something in, see if we've got something a little bit smaller. Maybe a tall, thin tab, that might be quite nice. Maybe something like this. Let's put this one in here, number 3. Okay, make it a feature of it. I'm going to click on it, shift button down, and I'm going to just rotate it for now. Doesn't matter, it's off the space, it's not going to worry. And now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say move. So I'm going to move that 100, and I'm going to bring it in first. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to go like this and back like that, and now I'm going to make this 20, and I know I just want to move this till it sits like that. Yep, I'm happy with that. And there we go, we've put a sink in with a prep bowl on that side, and we've put our other sink in over there. We've put our handles in. We've done a little bit of a mock-up here. Okay, one more thing we'll do before we save is I'm just going to put some chairs. Let's put some chairs in there. Okay, so I'm going to come down here where it says search. I'm going to say stools. Okay, and I'm going to say search. Okay. Well, we could always use a bench press or something like that, I suppose. Let's have a look here. Let's see what we've got. So I want to put in a sort of a semi-high chair because obviously we've raised this up a little bit. I'm going to pop one of these in. Okay. I'm going to put it in, space it, let go. So we can see already it's not in the right area because our feet are facing that way, so it's fine. I'm going to click on it, shift button, and I can now rotate that to the position that I want. So I just want to square it off like that. And let's have a look from the side view. Okay, I want to pull it out a little bit. So again, I'm going to get my move tool, and I want it to come out about there. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to that array tool again, and while it's selected, I can now tell it which way I want to go. So if I click on this one, you'll see it's going to give me a couple of chairs. We're going to give it 150 between, and I can physically see where they're going to be. I'm happy with that. I can group them and say install. And I've got all my chairs.